Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the service today. My name's Jake, and I'll be conducting the service. The topic today is living mindfully, bringing spirit into everyday life. And there was a Buddhist Vietnamese monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who said, "Every morning we have 24 new hours to live, to bring peace, joy, and happiness to ourselves and others. What a precious gift." So many times in my life, and I'm sure all of your lives, I look back and I think, geez, if I only knew then what I know now, I would have much been a better parent, a better spouse, better friend, better seeker. But the challenge is not to dwell on the past. There is really only the present. There's no past, there's no future. There's just the moment by moment by moment, the heartbeat by heartbeat by heartbeat, we live. And over the years, I've met a number of people who are stuck in their progress to evolve because of holding on to the things from the past. I don't know if you all remember, it was kind of the pre-iPad years ago. It's called Etch-a-Sketch. And you turn the knobs and it does whatever you want to do on it. And then when you're done, you can just shake it and it'll erase. Well, I'm dating myself. Before that was invented, there was this 8 and 11 by 11.5 piece of cardboard that had some pretty colors on the top. And I can't remember what the name of it was. It had some kind of substance on the cardboard. Probably was toxic. That's probably why they got rid of it. And then there was this gray sheet of material, and then there was a clear sheet above that. And then there was this wooden stylus. And so as a kid, I could take that and I could press down on the plastic sheet, and a black image would show wherever the stylus was pressed down. So it was sketch. And when you were done, you just grab the bottom and you pull up the two sheets and it erased everything. It was pretty cool. I mean, I had many hours of enjoying playing with that. But what would it be like if we could do that in our lives, if we could just, every night, just lift the sheet and start over again? Last week, David A. led a really inspiring meditation. If you haven't seen it yet or weren't there, I suggest you look at it. But he talked about our founder, Norm Paulson, and his journey and his experience of cosmic consciousness. And when he actually was at Yogananda's SRF when he was 18, he went there, and David can fill you in on his meditation on the backstory. But he'd been there probably about a year, and this other brother showed up, and Yogananda recognized in this brother that he had a real talent for keeping notes. And so he would invite this brother to a lot of his meetings with different people that he had appointments with or ran into. And he would write down what happened. And then when he took the vow of monkhood at SRF, they changed his name to Kriyananda. And he was a phenomenal person. He was a songwriter, he was a poet, wrote incredible amount of poems and books and how-to pamphlets and stuff. Unfortunately, after Yogananda passed and Dayamata became the president, there was some, I don't know what, I never really got the clear story from Kriyananda, but he was basically pushed out of SRF. amazing as it is, in 1968, he started a community in Northern California called Ananda. And Norm started Sunburst in 69. So they were kind of on a similar trajectory. So Kriyananda one of the books he did was called I think it's called Conversations with Yogananda or something like that. And what he did is he took all the notes that he had over the years with Yogananda and he organized them into a book. It's about this thick. And so I'm going to read a couple of quotes from that book today that were pretty cool, and it kind of talks about the topic. In God, Yogananda said, everything goes in the present tense. It's like a movie, which can be turned backwards or forwards. The action on the screen may cover centuries, but all the while up in the projector booth, it happens now. The secret of life is to learn to live fully aware of present bliss. When you can learn to be happy in the present, you have God. Kriyananda remarked, very few people live in the present, isn't that so? That's true, Yogananda said. Most people live in the past with nostalgia and regrets, or in the future with hopes and fears born of desire. So living mindfully and bringing spirit into our everyday life kind of rolls right off your tongue, but it's very difficult because our modern life is so busy. We have so many distractions and stress and challenges each day. And a lot of us just live on autopilot, where we just kind of go through the day and we, do the best that we can on the challenges that we're faced. But we have to understand that finding true peace does not depend on anything external. It's an internal journey that we have to take, internal conditions we have to create. Because we have to establish that inner connection with the Divine Spirit. I was reading the other day that, I'm sure you all know the actor/director Clint Eastwood. He just turned 95. And in this little interview that I read, they kind of asked him, how he lived to be at 95. And the thing about Clint that was impressed me was I've heard actors talk about how they love working with him, because on most movie sets, the director, they get everything set up, sometimes takes hours or days to set up the scene. And then the director will say, action! And all of a sudden the adrenaline just jumps in the actor, and a lot of times requires a lot of takes to get it right. Clint's never been like that when he directs a movie. He just says, go ahead and start when you're ready. And he just starts the film rolling. And actors love that. It doesn't bring up that adrenaline rush. But anyway, he talked about how when he was on this show called Rawhide. That's way back, which I watch diligently every week. And he said when he was on Rawhide, he got into working out in a gym, and he continues to work out 3 days a week and has kept that up his whole life. The other thing that he started doing then was eating better, eating more naturally. He said, I don't eat any junk food, none. And the other interesting thing was, he says, I practice TM, Transcendental Meditation. I had friends that did TM. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but from what I gather from what they told me was that the TM instructor or guru or teacher gives you some sort of mantra that's your personal mantra. And when you meditate, as you breathe in, you recite that mantra, and when you breathe out, you recite that mantra. And that is your meditation. So anyway, he's been doing this his whole life, and you can really tell by just his energy and obviously what the actors testified to. But we have to realize that true spirituality is a practical situation. It's how we think, act, and interact in our daily life each moment. And chances are we won't find, very few people find true spirituality in attending a church or studying different churches' teachings. But the amazing thing that Divine Spirit designed were these bodies, and these bodies have everything we need. We're fully equipped to contact our inner self, our pure self, and live in the moment and be able to transmute energies and be present and not think about the past or the future. There are many meditation techniques out there today, and the challenge for all of the seekers today is to find the one that they feel vibes with them, that they feel is their best bet for making progress spiritually. Here at Sunburst, we teach Kriya Yoga, which Yogananda brought to this country in 1920 from India. And it teaches a scientific method of uniting the body, the mind, and the soul. You know, when you think about a train and with a bunch of cars on it, well, there's a space between each car. And if you're sitting at a railroad crossing while the train comes and you're waiting, if that train comes really fast, you don't see the spaces, but they're there. Or if it comes really slow, you can see the spaces. And when we meditate, there's spaces in our heartbeat and there's spaces in our thoughts. And most of the time, we don't see them. We don't feel them. But they're there, whether you're, going 100 miles an hour on the treadmill or if you're sitting in meditation. Those spaces are there. So when we meditate, we slow our heartbeat and our mind becomes slow and we begin to become calm. And Yogananda said, if you can still your mind, still your thoughts for 3 seconds, you will know God. And that doesn't seem like very long, 3 seconds, but it really is when it comes to thoughts. Mind's an amazing machine. It cranks out thoughts like crazy. And David talked about Norm's experience of cosmic consciousness, which you can read in his autobiography also. But as he was meditating, his thoughts slowed, ever so slowly. And his heartbeat started slowing down. And there became the spaces between the beats and the spaces between the thoughts until both of them stopped and he went into cosmic consciousness. So it's never too old to start a meditation practice. And once we find one, we should set a goal to practice every morning and night. And then cultivate the will to think of God during our activities, which is a challenge in itself, just because the activity itself is a distraction. So bringing God into that activity is something we really have to work on. But we have to keep trying. We go, darn it, I didn't think of God at all today, or got out that thing happened and I blew up about it, I forgot about God. And we all slip. There's no doubt about that. We all slip into old habits. But Yogananda said past mistakes don't matter, but continuing those mistakes is the greatest sin against yourself. So every day we face these challenges that test us, basically. And these incredible minds are amazing. I mean, they can create wonderful inventions. You know, the electricity that powers the lights and the fan here, and you know, vehicles and buses, and take us to and fro, and planes. But also the mind can create weapons of mass destruction, unfortunately. So we need to find ways to control our minds. When I was beginning my search in 1970, I started going to New York at yoga in Manhattan, and I at the Integral Yoga Institute. And that was started by a Swami, Satchidananda. And he actually came to Columbia University when I was living in New York to speak, and I got tickets, and a bunch of us went. And he really jump-started me on my spiritual path. I felt like, even though I was one of maybe 2,000 people in there, I felt like he was looking and talking directly to me. And he told this story that there was this, because in doing this challenge of controlling the thoughts, there's an element of steadfastness that we have to have. We have to hang in there and not give up. So he told this story about how there was this man in southern India who was in front of the temple one day, and he saw this devotee taking flowers and offering them to the temple. And he thought, well, I want to offer something. And so he looked around and saw a stone on the ground. So he picked up a stone and he offered the stone to the temple. And he vowed that day, on that first stone, that every day before breakfast, he would get a stone and offer it to the temple. And this went on for years. He wouldn't eat breakfast till he actually did the offering. And one day he went and he couldn't find a stone. I mean, he looked everywhere and there wasn't any stones. And he was like, what am I going to do? And he was holding his hand on his head, and he went, well, this is hard like a stone. And he started twisting his head, trying to get his head off to give it to the temple. And this voice came from within, and with an unseen hand stopped him. And the voice said, I admire your dedication. You win. Now you don't have to throw stones anymore. I bless you. And this man went on to become a yogi, and this yogi is still worshipped in southern India in the temples there. Unfortunately, I don't know his name. So in quieting the mind, there's a quote from that book that Kriyananda wrote with the conversations he had with Yogananda. Kriyananda was having a great difficulty in quieting the mind in meditation. I feel an inner rebellion against the very idea of inner peace, he said. Yogananda said, don't fight your mind. Treat it like a donkey. That beast is so stubborn that sometimes it won't budge, even when it is beaten repeatedly. If its owner just lets it stand for a while, however, the donkey finally resumes walking again of its own accord. The best thing when your mind rebels is to let it stand for a while. Don't be too hard on it. Let it make its point. And after that, it will resume advancing of its own accord without being forced. I remember back when I was living in New York, I took a cab one day, and I don't know how many of you have taken cabs in New York, but it's quite an experience. All the different cab drivers and their stories. And I got into the cab, and on the dash was this picture of this, obviously this person from India. And I said to the cab driver, I said, "Who's that?" He goes, "That's my guru." And so he had this picture on his dash, and as he was driving around New York, facing all the challenges of that job, he was able to gaze at his guru and feel that energy coming back to him. And when we look in the temple here, we have pictures of souls that persevered, never gave up in their dedication to find God. We can put inspiring pictures in our homes that as we walk around our house and glance at them, it'll inspire us. It'll kind of shake us back into reality, into the present. We can meditate, and in meditation we can chant. We can chant a mantra. You can just chant Om with each breath. You can chant I am that I am. You can chant, and we teach Kriya 1, we teach how when you inhale you go and when you exhale you go He. So the Ahi is in a mantra. And the other thing that I have always found very helpful are beads. They look like this, and the beads are usually made out of all kinds of materials. And this is usually, it can be different things. It can be a button or a different shaped bead or a stone or whatever you want on here that indicates your starting place. And what you do when you meditate is and it's important to make sure that you have a knot between each bead, so there's a little space. And so as you meditate, you have your thumb in the groove, and after you circulate one breath, exhale and inhale, you just move your thumb to the next space. And at first you're thinking a lot about this, but after a while it kind of becomes automatic. And after a while, you're just sitting there without moving at all because you've gotten into that space of being really at peace. These are really helpful. Most of the necklaces have 108 beads on them. And when Norm had his experience, he was able to do each of the 108 in full concentration before he exited into cosmic consciousness. There's also bracelets with beads on them that you can wear every day, and if you meditate using that, you just have to go around a few times to get up to 108. But I definitely recommend these if we sell them in the store, or you can get them online. Remember the first set I had, I lived at this apple orchard in Kuyama, and somebody at Sunburst was gathering juniper berries and drilled holes in them, and my first necklace was a juniper berry necklace. The thing that we all know is as we gain control of our minds, the tests and challenges become more difficult. It's kind of like when you start out in first, second grade, you learn that 4 plus 2 is 6. And then when you get to college, it's calculus or some sort of advanced math that's much more difficult. But as we face these tests and we overcome these tests, there's a graduation day that we all attain, where we have our minds under control, and now we can bring spirit into our everyday life. When we look at a tree, we see the bark and we see the branches and the leaves. It's all very visible. What we don't see is inside there's all these channels that are going on that are bringing nutrients and carbon dioxide and all kinds of things to feed this tree. And in return, the tree's coming down with life force and different things to sustain the earth around it and the air with oxygen, and also help other trees that it communicates with. So in Kriya Yoga, we use our breath, and in our meditation, it's very critical because controlling the breath and lengthening the pauses between the inhalation and the exhalation is very key in discovering our inner self and bringing peace. So I encourage everyone to come to a Kriya retreat that we offer and learn how to do Kriya. Find out if that vibes with you, and it's okay if it doesn't. You can go on and find something else, but keep looking. That's the main thing. I want to, before we go into our silent period, I found a video or audio of Yogananda, and that I thought was appropriate for today, and we're going to play that.
But when you look at your body, when you look at the world, it seems that you are engaged with everything, that you have no time for God. But every night, He dissolves your body in the subconscious sphere and makes you realize that you are not a man, nor a woman, but a piece of consciousness, a reflection of His consciousness sleeping in space, in joy. The drama of sleep gave me the greatest faith in God. When anybody told me I am made in the image of God, I laughed. But I couldn't see in this frail body the image of God. But Master said, in this subconscious mirror of sleep, you find that you are infinite. That every night you become the infinite. You are not man nor woman. You are joyous and happy and conscious. But when you wake up, you always know that you are never unconscious. You exactly know how you sleep. Only you are not conscious of your body. But you are conscious of your real self. And the nest of your troubles starts with the body. So all the gifts and kindness that you have given to me, I want to give this gift to you. Remember these two natures in you. The nature as a man, as a human being during the day, and the nature as God at night. As I often say, we are all gods at night, but we become devils during the day. And if we can be gods during the day, we are gods all the time. And this purpose of life must not be drowned into various engagements with matter. We must remember, if God says, I have no time for you, and stop sticking in your heart, all your engagements have to be cancelled immediately. For one of the great sayings in India is, he is the cleverest who finds God. He is the cleverest who gives time to find God. He is the cleverest who finds that supreme happiness within. And you can stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking world. He whose peace, the riches of peace, cannot be taken away by all the robbers of circumstances and trials. In this spiritual family, you all remind me by your actions of one whom millions forget. And that's why they suffer. I remember one day I was in the movies. Movies have one fascination because I see the whole world as movies.
So I've experienced this, and I'm sure a lot of people have, is in deep meditation. I was no longer a man, and I was just conscious of my self, my pure self. And that is attainable for all of us because we're all equipped with the same faculties. So let's take a deep breath together and for a moment bring our awareness inward. Feel the peace of this present moment. In this stillness, we remember that Spirit is always with us, guiding, living, and inspiring us. And let's chant some ohms together as we move into our silent period. challenge that we face each day is to take the lessons that we've learned from the past and apply them to the present, but not dwell on the past. And to not put all of our energy into the future, but live the present, moment by moment, breath by breath. There's another story that Yogananda had told. I'm not sure if it's in his book, but he was traveling one day on a train to Los Angeles, and this well-dressed businessman caught his attention. And he looked like he was pretty well off financially and had every reason to be happy. But this man emanated much gloom, and Yogananda felt like he must try and resurrect him. He asked the man if he was happy and received a fierce glance back and asked, "Is that your business?" Yogananda replied, "It is my business to resurrect the walking dead." The man replied, "Yes, I am happy. I put $60,000 a month in the bank." Yogananda replied, "Tomorrow you may not be here to carry a cent. Have you opened your bank account with God?" The man was intrigued and invited Yogananda to lunch, but during lunch he was still antagonistic. Yogananda told him, "Do not rely on riches, for you may die and not the chance to make a will, not have the chance to make a will." The man became interested and suggested that Yogananda meet him in Boston. And Yogananda countered and proposed for him to come to LA. But the man said he didn't have time to come to LA and meet with Yogananda. The next time Yogananda traveled to Boston, he knew from his past conversations where the man lived and inquired about him. He was told that on the way back from seeing a hockey match, a man was hit by a truck and died. Yogananda said, "Open your account with God and use it through your travels now and in eternity. Live every second in the consciousness of your relationship with the divine. It is the one thing that will live forever." Remember, we have 24 new hours to live, to bring peace, joy, and happiness to ourselves and others. And if we can be gods during the day, we are gods all the time.
Make me an instrument, Lord of thy peace, as I let go, as I release. Make me an instrument, humble and free, as I awaken the living Christ in me an instrument, Lord of thy peace. As I let go, as I release, make me an instrument, humble and free. As I awaken the living Christ in me. As I awaken the living Christ in me, make me an instrument, Lord of thy peace. As I give love, love I receive, make me an instrument, humble and free. As I awaken the living Christ in me. As I awaken the living Christ in me, make me an instrument, Lord of thy peace. As I let go, as I release, make me an instrument, humble and free. As I awaken the living Christ in me. As I awaken the living Christ in me, make me an instrument, Lord of thy peace. As I give love, love I receive, make me an instrument, humble and free. As I awaken the living Christ in